If you've ever hesitated to ask for something because you were afraid of hearing the word no, then this episode is for you.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion, my words got power, my thoughts have action, motivation, stay gracious, that's greatness, be audacious, motivation, be audacious, innovation, be audacious, inspiration, be bold, motivation, be audacious.
So it's a book to inspire all of us to do more asking, to be bolder in our asking. Speaking of audacity, because in some arenas, we get the message, it's not okay to ask for the truth, whether that's at home or somewhere else. I'm really held back that I have not applied my creativity to what could be. I'm really locked into what I see, what's likely and probable. Not asking is cheating ourselves because we are depriving ourselves of the opportunity to have what we would otherwise not have.
Have you ever talked yourself out of asking before anyone else even had a chance to answer? Well, listen, I think we've all been there. Sometimes the biggest obstacle isn't rejection. It's a story we tell ourselves before we even open our mouths. This podcast is all about helping you unlock your inner greatness and live your best audacious life. And today I'm joined by Mr. Paul Quinn. He's the author of The Big Ask. And what I really enjoyed about this conversation is that Paul doesn't just encourage us to ask more, he challenges us and challenges the way we think about asking altogether. We explore why asking isn't about getting a yes, it's about becoming the kind of person who's willing to step it forward despite uncertainty and all those things, that questions that we don't have the answers to. And I'm telling you, man, if you've ever been waiting for the right time to ask for that opportunity, have that conversation, or simply bet on yourself, I think you're going to get a lot out of this one. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Hey, Paul, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for taking time to be here.
I'm delighted to be here, Audley. I've heard a few of your shows. I loved your energy instantly, and I'm happy to be here.
Good. Well, the big secret of my success is the wonderful people I get to sit across them and chat with. And, as much as I talk about my energy, they help fuel me. And the work that we do and the conversations we have are just, it's inspiring to be a part of. And so thank you. Glad that you're here. We're going to keep the tradition going in this high energy because that's the only way I know you're going to be a part of that. Here on this podcast, we encourage that best audacious life. And, that pathway to getting there is very, very different. And won't be the same for anyone, but I think the most important thing that we can recognize is that that boldness, that taking that first step, is key and integral to whatever major success that we do. That has to exist, and so I think that that's kind of be our starting point. What I'd love to get you to introduce yourself to our audience, talk about the work that you've done and what's got you to the point that you're at now, because you very much do also believe in demonstrating that boldness, but you specifically are encouraging boldness in the way we ask.
Yes.
So yeah, I'd love, just tell us more, Paul. I'd love to know.
You just said you are bolding, and that was a mistake. You said you are bolding, and then you correct yourself. I kind of like bolding as a verb. I think you should embrace it. You are bolding in this direction. Yeah, I love that.
I love that. I'm making note. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So, yes, I wrote a book, and it was 13 years in the writing.
Yes.
And it's called The Big Ask. And the book is about, it is for anyone, which is most of us, who has ever hesitated to ask, or felt we're unworthy of asking, or believe that there's no chance we'd get what we ask for. So this book is a compilation of my thoughts and stories from more than 80 people in all walks of life who shared with me their biggest asks. And that could be in the interpersonal realm, asking friends or a spouse or their children, or in many cases, it's about the workplace. People who ask for raises that they assumed would be no, they'd get a no answer.
Yep.
Or asked for promotions, or asked for a more courteous response from their boss. Or people who ask for truth. speaking of audacity, because in some arenas, we get the message it's not okay to ask for the truth, whether that's at home or somewhere else. So there are stories of people who did that, who said, this is too important for me not to ask. So they asked. So it's a book to inspire all of us to do more asking, to be bolder in our asking. And that can be as simple as asking a friend not to interrupt you when you're talking, if
Okay.
it's hard for you to ask that. Or it could be asking for a massive loan that they have every reason to turn down, but you're asking anyway. So this is the playground.
What made you make this your focus? Like, was there a question that you didn't ask or something in your own life that you said, hey, this is something to dig into?
Yeah, there were a couple instances, oddly, where I realized, oh boy, I need to learn how to ask because I was seeing people do it and who had great success with it. And I'm thinking, I'm just polite. I just stand on the sidelines and I wait to be invited. Really, that's how I spent most of my life. And to talk to people who made it their practice to ask was so instructive for me and
Hmm.
inspiring. And not, by the way, always for what can I get out of this? Some of these asks were on
Right.
behalf of other people,
Mhm.
were on behalf of charities or for struggling families. So it's not just all what can I get out of this? But I will tell you one instance in particular that got my attention very, very quickly.
Okay.
And it's also, fortunately, an audacious ask, which is our
Okay.
theme. But when this is easily 25 years ago, and I had some neighbors who had this big, beautiful Victorian style home, and they were sitting on their front step, and there was just a short yard between them and the sidewalk. And a couple about their age were walking along the sidewalk, and they stopped to talk to my neighbors. And they said, "Oh, we love your house. Every time we're in the neighborhood, we stop and admire your house."
Okay.
And then they said something that surprised everybody. They said, "Would you consider selling your house to us?" Well,
Okay.
that's quite a big ask right out of the blue, right after
Yeah.
hello.
Yeah.
But what that couple didn't know was that my neighbors just that week had been talking about selling their house. So this was
Wow.
an amazing bit of synchronicity, this
Yes.
opportunity. And my neighbors wound up selling the house to them direct without a middleman. And that couple
Wow.
lived in the house for the next umpteen years, still there now. So that got my attention because I thought I would never, ever consider walking up to strangers like that,
Yeah.
making such a big ask,
Yeah.
let alone hearing yes. I mean, that's the beautiful surprise of the whole thing. But I think again that and other stories like it made me realize that I'm really held back, that I have not applied my creativity to what could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm really locked into what I see, what's likely and probable.
Right.
But
Right.
that's not a place from which we can engage life.
That's right. That's right.
It's asking more of us when we ask.
So why is not asking, or why do you consider not asking cheating ourselves?
Not asking is cheating ourselves because we are depriving ourselves of the opportunity to have what we would otherwise not have.
Okay.
It is, we're cheating ourselves also because so often our failure to ask, I think, oddly, is because we don't feel worthy of asking. And that's a major cheat right there
Mm,
because we think, who am I to ask this? And the fact is that what we're afraid to ask or we feel unworthy to ask, in anyone else looking at us, they would say, what do you mean you're not worthy? But we
right.
shortchange ourselves. And we think, oh, but they're more qualified. Well, they might be,
Mm,
but still, I have many stories in the book of people who didn't feel qualified to ask for jobs, but asked anyway and got them. Because so often it's who you are, not what you've done in the past,
that's right.
that makes you the right candidate.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, we do. We cheat ourselves when we think that we're not worthy. We also cheat ourselves when we believe that it's against the rules to ask. And a lot of us were raised by well-meaning parents who taught us directly or indirectly that it's not okay to ask for certain
Right.
things. And
Right.
so
Right.
we learn, we shut up, we will not ask. And then there's all kinds of things we have deprived ourselves of because of that rule.
That's right. That's
That
right.
can also be cultural as well. I talked to Jim Liu, whose parents were from China.
Hmm.
And
Oh, well, yeah.
so,
Yep.
yeah, and you don't ask for things, Jim told me. That when your parents are Chinese, they teach you never ask for what you want. You have to be offered it. And he went to onto a very successful career as a corporate management consultant. And he worked with other Asian people who were similarly held back because they didn't ask for the promotion, didn't ask for the
Mm.
raise, didn't ask for this opportunity or that. So and cultural affects aside, we all have rules. Every listener
Yes.
right now listening to
Yep.
this has a rule that they may or may not have recognized that's holding them back.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And there is even a and like an emotional cost by staying silent, right? Like they were impacting us whether we realize it or not. And so I think like asking is that key, even from an emotional standpoint.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think too, again, getting back to the rules for a moment, I spoke to a guy who runs a company, a very big company. He asked not to be in the book, not even anonymously. So I'm
Wow.
protecting him.
Okay.
But he said, I can ask anyone in my organization for anything and get it. He says, what I can't ask is for my wife to hold me tenderly.
Mm.
So the rules changed at home. Emotionally, he did not feel nearly as free to
Right.
ask for his needs to be met from a partner. But in terms of the workaday world, no problem. And I don't think he's unique in that, Audley. I think all of
Gotcha.
us, again,
Yep.
have these rules
Yep.
about things we can and won't ask.
Mm-hmm. 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 I years ago on uh said earlier a podcast, he's podcast, and this is 2008,
Hmm.
and I would me and my partner would go, hey, who do we want to get on as a guest? And we would come up with the wildest list of all kinds of people, and figure out a way to say to reach out to them or their contacts, and like, hey, what the heck? And did they all pan out? No, but the ones that did were kind of cool. And so we had this is back, again, we're talking about 20 years ago, this podcast, or almost. And we had a Jaleel White who played Steve Urkel on the Family Matters
Sure.
sitcom, and it was hilarious. And I remember us initially going, I don't know, what do you think? And does it make? And we asked, and I will tell you, that podcast, we ran it for 5 years. We probably about 300 episodes, and he stands out so much as one of the best all time, funniest, delightful, enjoyable conversations. So you think if you let that fear of rejection supersede the ask, right? You now live with regret. I wish I didn't. And we also wouldn't have want to experience what we experienced. And then take it a step further, we decided to write a quote book of all the different quotes that we got from our guests. And we went back to Steve Urkel and said, hey, can you write the forward for it? And he agreed. Right. And so again, that's the ask. It goes back to that. And so I guess I want to sort of go into this rejection versus regret, and it's the fear of one that supersedes the other, and why that rejection thing is so powerful that we would rather live with the regret.
Yeah, yeah. And gosh, I wish there were an answer to that, why we do that. But it's powerful. And I think all of us have an innate terror of being shamed, of
Okay.
feeling shame. And in being told no, even if it's obviously not about us personally, there's still that element of, but I was the one asking, I was the one hearing that no. And there's a part of us, I think, that just takes that on unfairly to ourselves.
Yep.
I think it's a little dicier when it comes to dating, frankly,
Sure.
because uh, to be told no when asking someone out, it can feel like a personal rejection, feel like I'm not attractive enough, personally or physically, what
Right.
have you. And that can be a tough thing to knuckle through.
Yeah.
But everything else, I think, is kind of a game that we just have to say, what are going to be my rules for no? What am I going to tell myself when I hear no? And empower ourselves by deciding in advance, to the extent we're able to anyway,
Hmm.
how we will respond. Because the default for most of us is to collapse
Yeah.
and feel bad and second guess and beat ourselves up. So knowing that, I think a gift we can give ourselves to say, aha, I know that pattern. So I'm going to do this instead, even if we have to kind of fake it till we make it,
Yeah.
just to be that champion for ourselves.
Hmm.
Very,
Hmm.
very delicate material here, this content.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any one way to do it. We all have to find ways through our own fear and
Yes.
shame.
Yes. Yeah, no, I can see that. I also see the role that limiting beliefs can play when it comes to our ask, like I'm not worthy or who do I think I am? We talk about the imposter syndrome and what that does. Um, there's I don't know if you're familiar with the tall poppy syndrome, right? Where we cut ourselves. We don't want to be the tall poppy. You think of poppies in the field, so we cut ourselves down to match with others because we don't want to stand out.
Yes.
I think these are all sort of things that exist in people's psyche and mindset that impacts their ability to ask for stuff.
Oh yeah. Again, it's that who am I fear, that
Mm,
we can't answer that who am I. And then we will be silent and not ask. I talked to a fascinating woman who's a nurse practitioner, and she's also a professor of nursing in
okay.
the Chicago area. And she told me a story about this kind of why bother asking because it's not going to happen anyway, that turned out well for her. She and a fellow student were in their senior year in nursing college, and they both wanted to graduate early, but the nursing college did not offer the class they needed that summer in order to graduate early. And so they thought, okay, it's going to be no, but let's ask the administration if they would offer this class that's not scheduled for us.
Yep.
And they did. The university offered that class for them, and they graduated early. And not only that, wait, there's more. The university also, without their asking, gave them a private graduation ceremony for these two young women and their families, presided over by the dean in
Wow.
the teacher's lounge. So that ask had built into something they had never anticipated. But from two students who are thinking, I don't know, should we ask? What? They're not going to say yes. Why bother? And I think that's a good aha point, Audley,
Sure.
to catch ourselves in the why bother, the answer is going to be no stage,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
go, okay, I
Let's do it.
remember I'm going to stop that pattern and I'm going to ask because there's no downside in asking.
That's right.
Challenge it, challenge
That's
it.
right. That's right. That's right. So I'm a big fan of curiosity, right? And I think that's so. And within we're talking, I think curiosity is an important element of the work and the message, part of your message that you're conveying. And so part of that curiosity is asking the question, "What if?" Like, or why not? Right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
those are so powerful questions. There's a story. It's you mentioned that you the story of the two people there. There's a story of I hear of Shaquille O'Neal, basketball player, famous,
Sure.
Hall of Fame basketball player. And there was a course that he wanted to take. I think it was the University of Phoenix or something. And he asked for this course. And I guess maybe it's a bit different coming from a guy like that that's got all the status, but he asked for this course. They said, we can't offer it because there aren't enough students. Like it wouldn't be enough students to take the class. So I said, okay, well, how many students are needed?
Mhm.
And they gave him the number and he just bought a class. He offered it to 15 of his friends. Say, hey, we're all getting this degree together, kind of a thing, right? But again, asking a question. So it's really easy. Like I think we oftentimes do, we literally self-screen or self-select ourselves out. We'll look at a menu of options and go, oh, it's not there for me. Oh, okay, I guess I can't have it. And
Right.
we don't even give ourselves a chance because it's not on the menu of options. And so we don't even ask. But I think to your point, like, why not ask? Why not be curious, right?
Oh yeah. I don't have children, but a lot of my friends with children will say that their kids give up too easily. that they'll say, "Oh, well, it's too hard to get into that program or whatever." And the parent will say, "Have you asked? Have you looked? Have you investigated? Have you done any research?" No.
No.
So, we laugh, but I think that there's truth in that for all of us, that the things that we write off as being unavailable, what if we took that extra moment and Googled about it, or called the college or called the job or
Okay.
whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
and matched our expectations against reality to see if there's
Hmm.
anything there at all
Hmm.
before we
Hmm.
dismiss it outright.
That's
I
right.
mean,
That's right.
this is basic stuff, but
Yeah.
we often do not do it. We don't. Why is that?
Mm.
I think again that getting back to the theme of cheating, we feel like we're humble, perhaps. Oh
Right.
well, you see, my estimation of myself is in check, so I wouldn't make a spectacle of myself by asking X, Y, or Z.
Mm.
And there's
Got you.
nothing
Got
wrong
you.
with humility, but
No.
humility is masked is masking fear. That's another story altogether.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Give me an idea, or maybe the differences between an effective ask and a desperate ask.
Oh, desperate ask. Oh, okay. Well, I think a desperate ask could be begging, right? It could
Okay,
be the
yeah,
point where we are just at our knees and we are begging. And I have a little bit about that in the book because I think we're all uncomfortable when someone is begging us. It's
sure,
just uncomfortable. We don't want that. And yet begging can also be effective because we feel pressured to relieve this pressure for the person.
right.
And an effective ask, in contrast, is one where we are asking from a place of confidence and a sense of possibility. And maybe there's even something in it for the person we're asking, particularly in a business sort of situation where it's not just me getting, it's by your saying yes, here's what we can enjoy, here's what we
Right.
can achieve together. So that's a very different vibe than desperation. And yet, we're all human and desperation touches all of us. There are very few people listening, I'm sure, that have escaped what it's like to have to beg for what you need or what you want. And in fact, that's an act of self-love, I think, when we are willing to let go of our ideas of dignity or anything else because this is too important for us.
Hmm.
A quick
Hmm.
story, oddly.
Yeah.
I talked to a man who is now in divinity school,
Okay.
but when he was a teenager, his father was a very nasty drunk.
Okay.
And this young man wrote to his father, basically begging, pleading, "Dad, please stop drinking." And he gave some facts about here's the effects of it on our family. And he left it for his father. His father was always the first out in the mornings. And when that young man came home from school, his father was on the porch smoking a cigarette, his back to the front door. And the young guy said, "Dad, did you get my letter?" And without looking up or looking at his son, the father said, "Yeah, I got it." Nothing happened with it. The father continued drinking and he died an early death. But the point that this man who I interviewed made was that even though the answer was no, and even though he had been pleading from his
Hmm.
heart,
Hmm.
he was changed in that ask. He himself as
Mm.
the asker, because he says, "I felt now like a man." I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, but he says,
Yeah.
"I
Yeah.
felt now like I was no longer subordinate to my father. I was as much a human being deserving of respect and love as my father was." So there was some sort of equalization happened in that, and his esteem was raised. I find that story profound because I think that, again, the answer was no, and yet look what the courage to ask taught him about himself.
Mm. No, that's powerful. I've never actually even thought of it from that standpoint that it changes you. Um, but it certainly makes sense, and I can see even where your confidence grows, right? Like you ask once, and you think of it like I've got this fear, and I want to ask, and I won't ask, and I want to, and you're deliberating, you're back and forth, and then you finally ask, and you get, maybe you get the answer you want, what that does for your confidence. I would imagine that builds you and gives you, because now you got the evidence, that proof that why asking is a good thing versus, oh, I better not because this is bad's going to happen, right? So I can certainly see that. But in terms of how you described that individual being changed, that's something new to me. So I appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah. Cynthia Barnes is another person I interviewed for the book. Cynthia is, I'm going to get the name of her organization wrong, but she is the founder of an organization for professional saleswomen,
Okay.
a
Okay.
huge organization. And she tells a story in the book about the time when her mentor had said, Cynthia, if you want to get into consulting or take it to the next level, you need to ask 10 times your rate.
Okay.
Well, Cynthia said, I can't do that 10 times. I can't ask the people who've already been paying me this sum to ask for 10 times more than that. But to your point, she asked that first time. And she asked with a great deal of fear. And she asked with a great deal of fake it till you make it or fake it till you become it.
Yep.
And she was sure that they would say no. She was tensed, waiting for that no. And they said yes. And
Mm,
because of that one ask, of course, it made it easier for every ask after that, because she had shown that you can, in fact, get a yes, even if you
yep.
believe you'll get no.
Mhm.
Although it's better, certainly, if you believe you'll get yes.
Sure. Sure.
That's
Sure.
psychologically, that's just easier.
And I can certainly see where we get into this frame of asking how it can even like reshape ourselves professionally, like from a growth standpoint, right? Like why not ask, right?
Yeah. Oh, and one area that's huge is asking for feedback.
Yeah, oh, there we
Uh,
go.
for those who work in organizations, to ask for feedback, first of all, is pretty unusual because most people wait for their quarterly review. Pardon me. They wait to be told. But to be proactive enough to say, "Hey, boss, how am I doing? Or what are three things you see me doing that you want me to continue, and three things that you'd like me to leave behind that are getting in my way?" Again, that raises the opinion, the estimation of that boss or that supervisor for that employee because, first of all, it shows a level of ambition that you care enough to want to excel and exceed and meet expectations. And the other thing is that it's easier to ask someone for feedback, pardon me, than it is for that person to just offer the feedback. And that's a study that showed that to be true. So if you ask me what I think of you as a podcaster, um, that's one level
Right.
versus me saying, "Here's what I think of you as a podcaster." Now I'm going to get choked up
Right. Gives that permission.
because
Yeah.
our relationship is now at stake. I am pitting myself above you in some evaluative way,
Mm,
but when it's a conversation, hey, how am
that's
I
right.
doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't take advantage of that. So, of
Gotcha.
course, there's a whole chapter in the book of stories of people who did ask for feedback and it changed everything for them.
Gotcha. No, I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense. I think it's only fitting. How am I doing as a podcaster? Am I okay? Is it okay?
Yeah. Oh, you're doing great. Yeah. No, wait
Okay.
till my feedback at the end of this, okay? Once we're off camera, then no, this is delightful. Are you kidding?
That's
Yes, you're
awesome.
kidding.
The other part around this I think is also important to touch on is the role that vulnerability plays in asking, right? And how how important it is to be comfortable with being vulnerable.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
Yes. Yes, period. Yes.
yeah.
Again, it's absolutely a vulnerable thing to do to ask for what you want,
Sure.
only because the answer can be no. And if that changes the relationship between the two people and hearing that no, and it can, depending
Mhm.
upon the ask, then the stakes are pretty high.
Yeah.
And that might be an ask that I avoid for a very long time. A story that I won't tell because it's quite long, but there's a story about asking for truth.
Okay.
And it did change the relationship between the asker and the askee, but it changed it for the better because they found an intimacy that they hadn't had before that ask.
Got you.
So vulnerable, yes. Everything is at stake when not in every ask, of course. Please pass the salt is not a high stakes request.
Right, right.
But something like asking for truth or asking for forgiveness, massive vulnerability,
Yep.
massive vulnerability. I talked to a woman who had spent many years as a crackhead by her own admission and
Hmm.
in Chicago. And she was in the Englewood neighborhood in Chicago, and she and her fellow drug dealers and users would lean against the fences of the homeowners and generally created a very tense atmosphere for the neighbors.
Okay.
Police were called often. Well, fast forward 10 years, and she was now working to elect a local representative in Chicago politics.
Okay.
And she was canvassing door to door, and she found herself in that very same neighborhood that
Mhm.
she had dealt in, been a dealer in. And she made her pitch for her candidate at that first door, and she said, she just was overcome with this. She asked, she told the woman, she says, I have to tell you, I basically terrorized your neighborhood 10 years ago. I was one of the people that you would call the police on. She says, I'm asking your forgiveness. I
Mhm.
need you to forgive me.
Powerful.
And the woman hugged her, and the two of them wept, and the woman prayed over her. And she said it was so healing and so transformative. She went to the next house. This almost sounds like a fairy tale. She went to the next house, knocked on the door, canvassed for her candidate, and said to that, apologized to that person, said, I did this 10 years ago. I was one of the people out front. I'm asking your forgiveness. And she got forgiveness that whole block for those who remembered,
Wow.
who had been there for 10 years.
Yep, 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 yep.
And talk about vulnerability. She realized that that put her in a position where people could slam the door, once they learned who she was or what she had done. But each one of them forgave her. And I think, forgiveness is a whole other topic, oddly, but I
Yes,
think there's always that first element of self-forgiveness
yes,
before
absolutely.
we can
Yeah,
find it to ask someone else for theirs.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Self, that's a huge one, and I think it's
Yeah.
important. Sort of glad that you made that point. Um, part of the fear of ask is the rejection part. We touched on that already, right? And hearing no. So along that theme, what advice would you give to someone who just heard no as a result of an ask?
Hmm. Well, again, this kind of harkens back to what I was saying earlier about have a strategy in advance.
Okay. Yeah.
Decide if I hear no when I hang up that phone, I'm going to dance. Or I'm going to call a good friend and cry on their shoulder. Or I'm going to jog. I'm going to do 75 push-ups, whatever it is. But any of these things reconnect us to our sense of worth and power. And I think we owe that to ourselves after that no. And also, I know a lot of salespeople and they're in the you just muscle through it. Just,
Yeah. Yeah.
a no just means the next one is you're closer to a yes. And that's
Yes.
great if you can muster it. For people who have that disposition, that's great. A lot of us don't. A lot of us don't have that. My will conquer all. So there we need strategies. We need these other little helps that make it less ouchy.
Mm,
And it's not bad to have a plan B. If we go in, if that no, pardon me, if that yes is so important, we have to, what's our plan B then? If I hear
right.
no,
Right.
and that no might be, we ask again the next day or the next week, or we ask a different person, or
Hmm.
we ask that same person, but in a different way. It doesn't mean it's no forever.
That's right.
But a
Yeah.
lot of us don't probe. We don't say, could you tell me more about why you're saying no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or what would it take for you to say yes?
Yep. Yep.
That
Yep.
opens the conversation, keeps going. I might get some insights that I wouldn't have had I just taken your word at no and sulked away.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. Again, I use the example of podcasting. One of the things that I do, I'll approach with, "Hey, can you be a guest?" And and sometimes when you're going through the gatekeeper, their people or whomever, the publicist, whatever, they'll say, "No, not at this time." But for me, when I hear "not at this time," I hear "not right now." Okay, cool. So
Yeah.
I'll follow up with you in 3 months. Is that okay? And more than often, they'll say, "Yeah, sure, follow up within 3 months." So
Right.
it's because the thing is, it's the fear. So the fear of not asking, let's say, "Hey, for so and so to be a guest," is that fear of rejection. Okay, they're
Yeah.
going to tell me no. Well, when you say to me, "Not at this time," I'm not hearing no. I'm hearing the
Mhm.
timing isn't right now. And then I follow up with the, "Can I ask, can I come back in 3 months?" Sure, no problem. That's not a rejection. That's, "Yeah, I'll talk
Right.
to you in 3 months." So it's a lot of it's how you frame it and think about it and approach it. But and it's very rare, almost never, someone will say, "No, don't follow up with me in 3 months." If they're busy now, they'll say, "Okay, when we're not busy, let's talk then."
Right.
So my point is more of just how you frame and approach it and what you hear and how you attack it head on.
Another thing too is that in your case, oddly, the you're coming from a place of solid belief in what you're doing.
Right.
No, that you see your podcast as a vehicle for change and positivity. So it's almost like it's an impersonal other party that's asking, or you're asking on behalf of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in a way that could make your ask stronger.
Mhm.
And I do think that when we have that strong why I'm asking, do I truly believe in whatever I'm asking about? That makes us a much more formidable asker because it's not thin, it's bone deep in the best
Yes.
cases.
Yes.
And then we do find the resources to have the kind of tenacity that you do to go back in 3 weeks or 3 months. You know,
Yeah.
can I tell you one story of great tenacity?
Totally. I love that. I love stories.
There's a wonderful guy named Wayne Paprocki, and I want to get his title right here. I've flagged it. He is the state director of the Real Estate Negotiation Institute.
Okay.
And he was trying to get a meeting to do sales training for this big company. And so he wrote to the president and said, "Could we meet next week? I'm going to be in your city." And the reply from the admin was, probably not a good time. He's got meetings, but da da da. Well, Wayne went even on no appointment, and he went into the office and he gave his business card to the admin and said, "I'm here to see the president." And she said, "Well, do you have an appointment?" He says, "No," but he kind of schmoozed her and made it, seem like he might have an appointment. Anyway, she knows better than that. She took his business card in. A few moments later, came out and said, "The president is very busy today with meetings. He can't see you." And Wayne said, "Well, you know what? I brought a lot of work. I can just sit here. If he changes his mind,
Camp
I'm
out.
here. Yeah, we'll have that conversation, no problem." And he was there most of the afternoon. And the secretary's looking at him like, this guy is crazy. And it's now about 4:30 in the afternoon. And Wayne says to the admin, he says, "You know what? I really should get going. Could you do me a favor? Could you go into his office and ask for my business card back?" And she looked at him like he was nuts and went in. And Wayne said he'd sort of relished the silence. And then the president steps out and he goes, "Who the hell are you?" He says, "What kind of person would give me their business card and then ask for it back?" He
Right.
says, "Get in here." Talk about audacity. So Wayne
Yeah.
went in and Wayne, gave his pitch that I do sales training and so on. And the president looked at him and said, "Well, I tell you what, any guy that has the guts to ask for his business card back is the right guy to lead my sales training."
Mm.
And he says, "Any guy who would do that is worth his weight in gold." And Wayne said, "Good, I weigh a lot."
Love
True
that.
story.
No, I love
So
it. No, and
again,
I think that's a great example, right? Like just stepping up, you don't know, and let's do it and follow and think, fight through that. I don't know, and my stomach hurts, and I'm not sure. Fight through all that, because on the other side, there's immense possibilities, and the
Immense
potential is
possibilities.
huge. And so, yeah, I would certainly, and yeah, I think that's a great ask. Curious from your perspective, Paul, as we're wrapping up here, I'm curious enough to hear, sort of from your perspective, what does an audacious life look like to you?
An audacious life look like to
Hmm.
me. Wow. Okay, I think an audacious life is probably rooted in the freedom of not caring what people think
Mm,
about the way one lives one's life,
mm,
or how one dresses, or what one says. I think that's audacity, and it's so rare, and I can't claim it for myself. I care
right,
far too much about how I'm thought. I
right,
do. So, but it's certainly worth working toward that not caring.
yeah,
And I think then we bend rules all the time when we're in that state or that place. We get far more creative. To your point earlier, the what if becomes richer. And we're not scared by asking the question, what if? Because that is the ultimate liberating question. What if? What if I believe this instead of that? What might be possible? Boy, that's right there at the precipice of change. That kind of a question. And that to me is living audaciously is what if I'm making my life up as I go without rules other than my own? And I'm making up those rules as I go. That's
yeah.
very exciting material.
It is.
And more power to any of us who can follow that path.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
be your student if you can.
Well, it's funny. I find now that, um, and look, maybe I've set myself up because I've launched down this path of audacity, and but every so often I'll come to a situation where, like, I don't know, and I'm not sure, but I'm reminded of sort of the where I've staked my flag. And I'm reminded how important that is. And anytime I find myself self-question, because I am a human being, and I go through the same level of emotions and fears and concerns. And I think, though, the difference for me is I don't stay there as long. I find quicker ways out of it. So the
Yeah.
same things so these messages I share, they're much for me as they are for others as well too. Right. I don't claim that I've got it all. What I do know is I know how to get it, and I know not to stay where I'm at because it's going to prevent me from getting the things that I want. And so,
Right.
it's an important message. So I thank you for sharing that, Paul. So first of all, I had a blast. This has been a great time talking with you, and really
Oh,
appreciate
likewise.
the insights. Yeah, no, and I'm
Yeah.
not asking for feedback. I'm telling you that you did a great job, and I think you wonderfully have encapsulated a topic that people may not necessarily put attention to in terms of its significance and importance in our lives, but I truly think it is. One thing that I'd love to be able to do with you here, and we call the fearless fast round, where it's rapid fire questions. First that comes to your mind, and
Okay.
we kind of close out. Does that work for you? Want to get a shot?
Sure.
Sure, why not? Okay,
You're
that was
catching me off guard, but that's not a bad place to start.
that's my ask. Why my ask?
Sure.
So the biggest personal ask that you've ever made.
Asking Oprah Winfrey while she was jogging in the park if I could be on her show. Yes, I had a theater company
Okay.
and I saw Oprah and I thought my theater company would be perfect for her show. And so I asked her while she was jogging. I do not recommend this. But and we did get on her show 2 years
Okay.
later.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I don't think it was because I had bugged her in the park.
Gotcha. Okay, that's a big ask. That's a big ask.
Yeah, yeah.
Comfort or courage?
Oh gosh. The truth for me is comfort. Comfort, baby. I do like comfort. I have to encourage myself to get out of comfort zones all the time. It is
Mm,
my nature to settle in. So yes, I wish I had a more inspired answer.
no, it's a truthful one, and that's what matters when it
Yes,
comes. It's
it
authentic.
is. It is.
Asking or assuming?
Oh, asking. Yes. Asking versus assuming. Yes. Removes all doubts right away. Yes.
A word that defines your work.
A word that defines my work. Encouragement.
Okay. 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 Favorite quote about courage?
Quote about courage. Wow. I don't know if it's about, maybe indirectly, but it's this. It's some change because they see the light, others because they feel the heat.
Oh,
And I think that if we see the light in something, we see this is the way to do it rather than just feeling the pain of it. That can take courage to move towards something rather than away from something. It takes more
gotcha.
courage to move toward than away.
Hmm. I like that. I like that. The most surprising story from your book?
Most surprising story from my book. Okay. I spoke to a Holocaust survivor, now in her 80s, and she told me about how one ask reunited her with her brother, who was presumed dead for decades,
Wow.
and they were reunited because of an ask.
Hmm. Powerful.
Yeah.
Yes or no? Is fear useful?
Yes. Don't touch
Failure.
the bear. Don't touch the bear. Don't, yes. Don't let the brown recluse crawl on you. Yes.
Yes. That's it. Yes. 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 And more yes.
Yes.
Failure or feedback?
Feedback.
Yeah.
Feedback.
I kind of knew that one, but I thought I'd ask anyways. One habit that you're unlearning.
A habit that I'm unlearning.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Uh, outrageous self-criticism.
Hmm.
Just like the most scolding, horrible voice and unlearning that, catching it and playing with it.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But yeah, that's been a thing.
Very cool. Okay, then lastly, a
Yes.
daily affirmation that you believe in.
Daily affirmation. Oh, I tell you, I actually have not used this very often because I just heard it a few weeks ago, but it's simply I can. That's the affirmation. I can. As a way to quell anxiety, if we're anxious about being able to do or achieve something, resolve something, I can. I can. It's so simple. It's positive, and and we don't need a lot of detail to make it work. I'd like to use this more because as I tell you about it, I'm going,
Mhm.
yeah, let's revive that because that's worth remembering and acting on.
If I were to answer this, mine would be "Live life audaciously." Is what motto I go by. And I actually tattooed it on my forearm as a reminder of how important it is to me to live that way of thinking and that way of being. And so, listen, thank you for this, Paul. This has been great. I had a lot of fun and great insights, and loved again the ask. It might is something that people might not pay attention to, but it
Yeah,
is big. It's a big deal. I love the fact that you've dedicated your work around that. Let's give the title. Do you have the book? You can show up there. We
I
can see.
do.
Yeah,
I can do a
there
here.
we
Let me
go.
see. Whoops, it's going to disappear with
Oh,
this.
the big
Called
ask. There we
The
go.
Big Ask. And
There
the
we go.
subtitle is Unlock the Possibilities in Your Work, Life, and Dreams with Courageous Requests.
Love it. I love it. I love it. For listeners, I wanted to connect you directly, learn more about your work, or grab a copy of your book. Where can we send them?
You can go to bigaskbook.com. And I'm also on social media, on Facebook, and also on Instagram and LinkedIn. So you can find me there as well. But yeah, I would love to hear from anyone who reads the book and has a favorite story, or send me your stories
Okay.
because I do write a blog and I feature many of the stories on the blog that come from people who have spoken to and who've
Beautiful.
read the book.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, we'll make sure that the appropriate contact details are in the show notes below. Paul, this has been phenomenal. Appreciate the time. A lot of fun, great insights. Again, important work. And again, thank you for being a guest on the Audacious Living Podcast.
Thank you, Audley. It's been a pleasure.
Back we are here on the podcast. I got to tell you, one of the things that really stayed with me from the conversation, the idea that every opportunity begins with a question. Whether you're asking for a promotion, honest feedback, forgiveness, or simply asking yourself, what if? The courage to ask has a way of changing us, regardless of the answer we receive. I also appreciated Paul's reminder that hearing no doesn't have to be the end of the conversation. Sometimes it's simply an invitation to come back with a different approach, or, maybe at a different time with a deeper understanding. That's a perspective I know I'll definitely carry with me. So with that being said, let's jump into today's Audacious Insight. It's time for an Audacious Insight where we take a quick look at something happening in the real world that reflects the power of bold thinking and intentional action. Imagine two employees, both have the same experience, both do excellent work, both believe they're ready for a promotion. One waits, hoping someone notices. The other schedules a meeting and asks. Nothing else changes. Same skills, same effort, same company. Only one question separates them. Life often works that way. We assume the biggest difference between people is talent, intelligence, or luck. Sometimes it's simply that one person who was willing to ask while the other quietly answered no on someone else's behalf. Your next opportunity may not require becoming someone new. It may simply require asking one new question. Now, if you'd like to learn more about Paul or his work and pick up a copy of The Big Ask, be sure to check out the links in today's show notes and this conversation. Encourage you. I'd appreciate it if you take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who's been waiting for that perfect time to ask that question. Sometimes the perfect time is simply now. I want to thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, keep living life audaciously.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion. My words got power, my thoughts have action. Motivation, stay gracious. That's greatness. Be audacious.